Hello, good afternoon, and welcome everyone. Welcome to another live session at the Reactors. Before we get into the session, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We're all here to learn, so please be respectful, please be kind, and ask questions. The chat will be open throughout. So today we are hosting this absolutely amazing session on getting started with Azure Speech Service. And this session is actually led by two of our gold student ambassadors, Hadil and Kenji. So without further ado, I will now bring them up on the screen and they will both lead the session. Hi Kenji, hi Hadil.
Hi.
Over to you.
All right, let's start then.
Hello everyone. Thank you for being here today for our training session, getting started with Azure Speech Service. I am Hadil Benamar, a final year engineering student from Tunisia and a Gold Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador.
And I'm Kenji, also like a Go Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. I study computer science at the university, and I'm happy to be here today. So today we are here to talk. Today we are here on behalf of the Microsoft Learn Student community and also the Microsoft Reactor to host one of the post-student summit workshop that just happened a few weeks ago. And we're going to focus our presentation on the Azure Speech Service. And
so if you are a student who is interested in the intersection of technology and speech, and you are looking to gain new technical skills while exploring cutting-edge use cases for speech technology, you are in the right place. So let's dive deeper into our agenda. We will have an introduction to Azure and Azure AI. Then we are going to move forward to have an overview of Azure Speech Service. After that, we are going to discover Speech Studio one-to-one and key services. And we will know how is Azure Speech Service have so high quality.
then we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into like a demo. We will show you how to create an Azure Speech Service on the Azure Portal. Then we'll go more into like the coding and show you how to integrate Speech Service into your React web application. And then after that, we're going to deploy the application we have made into Azure Static Web Apps. After that, we're also going to go and look into some of the interesting use cases of Speech Service and maybe look into some future and interesting features that have just come out. And then after that, we'll just talk a bit more about where to go from here as a student.
So after the recent OpenAI move and in recent years, every one of us have heard about AI. But have you heard of Azure, or did you know it's one of the most popular cloud computing platforms in the world? Tell us in the chat if you have heard about it, tried it out, or used it in a few projects.
Yeah, figuring out how to look at the chat as well. For those of you who are new here, Azure is just Azure is the forefront of cloud computing innovation. And with all the innovation that Microsoft has been producing over the past few weeks and months, I'm sure that Azure is a platform that is definitely worth learning more about. And Hadil will actually explain more about Azure in the next slide.
I'm sure we all had heard about Azure, so let me start. So, Azure is a cloud computing platform with an ever-expanding set of services that help you to build solutions even for your business or for your academic projects. It actually gives you the freedom to build, manage, and deploy applications with your favorite tool and frameworks. To recapitulate, Azure provides a wealth of cloud-based services like remote storage, where you can store your data remotely on Microsoft servers rather than on your own physical hard drive. You will have also database hosting because Azure allows you to host databases in the cloud, which make it easier to manage and access your data. Having a centralized account management also, and for AI and IoT, Azure includes features for building and deploying artificial intelligence and IoT that may be used for your projects. Moving forward to Azure Cloud, which provides security with various features and services, including identity and access management and threat protection. Also, you will have global access since Azure has a global presence data centers located in different regions. You will have also the scalability because various services that can scale automatically based on demand. Concerning hybrid cloud, Azure provides various services and solutions for hybrid cloud scenarios, such as Azure Stack. Concerning the flexibility, a wide range of services and tools that support different programming language platforms and frameworks, so you can work with anything you want to. Uh, we can talk about what does Azure offer. We will be ready for the future. We will build on our terms. We will trust the cloud and operate hybrid seamlessly. So, how to get Azure? We have actually two ways. We have Azure subscription for student, free subscription for student, and we have GitHub Student Developer Pack, which give you a lot of services, including Azure subscription. So AI enhance user experience. So if you are looking for ways to enhance your projects and improve efficiency, Azure AI services such as Azure Speech Service can help you to achieve these goals.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I believe that building AI powered apps are certainly a fun project to do. However, I feel like a lot of students nowadays kind of have this misconception that anything to do with AI is kind of hard to do. And this mainly boils down to a few other misconceptions, which are like you need a lot of maths, you need a lot of data, and you need a lot of, I guess, compute to train and also to execute your model.
That was certainly true many years ago, but times have definitely changed. Right now, it's a lot more accessible. No maths, just APIs. Many models are pre trained and you can customize through fine tuning, and you pay for what you use.
And that's right. Later in the demo, I'll show all of you. I mean, we will show all of you how easy it is to integrate speech features into your own web application. And I think all I have to say is that it's really straightforward.
So, are you ready to explore the possibilities of core AI that involves AI services, such as Azure Speech Service, that will help you to unlock new opportunities and drive innovation? So, discovering Azure AI services, Azure provides more than 100 services that enable you to explore new software paradigms such as intelligent bots and actual cognitive services. Azure provides AI and machine learning services that can naturally communicate with users through vision, hearing, or speech.
Yeah, and definitely a lot more to come in the next few months or years. So before we dive straight into Azure Speech Service, let's just understand what exactly speech technology is. So speech technology involves the use of computer systems to recognize, um, understand, and produce spoken language. It's what enables us to communicate with our machines using voices alone. And you can think of Jarvis, like the smart personal assistant from Iron Man. It actually introduced the idea of speech technologies back in, I think it was 2008, by first of all detecting what the user was saying, aka speech recognition, and also talking back to the user, also known as speech synthesis, which are basically just the two fundamental building blocks of speech technologies. And fast forward a few years later, the space has definitely changed, and we now have our own personal assistants like Siri and Alexa. With speech technologies, we can interact with our devices and control them through natural language, making it an essential part of the modern day human computer interaction.
That's right. It was a game changer at that time. One day, out of nowhere, started being able to communicate with our digital assistants through speech. It made things easier and really accessible and convenient, especially for users with disabilities. They could interact with technologies through voice completely.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Hadio. I personally have an Alexa system at home, so I can control everything from like setting alarms, playing music, to just turning my lights on and off. Makes me sound like a really lazy person, but it is really convenient.
Yep, of course. With how life changing this feature is, many business also then try to include speech features into their own apps. But it was hard process because these speech features often made use of machine learning models, which have had limited accuracy and required significant customization for different languages or accents, which made it hard for developers actually to include it in their apps feed unless they had their machine learning own and tons of speech data.
And this is exactly where the Azure Speech Service comes in. So, what is the Azure Speech Service? Azure Speech Service is basically a collection of cloud services related to speech features, such as, most of us commonly know like speech to text and text to speech. And most of the models here are pre-trained and basically are good enough for general purpose straight out of the box. But if you want some specialized capabilities, you can customize them with your own personal data. And the good thing about the Azure Speech Service is that it supports a wide demographic of, for people for most of their speech features. So we have different languages, different like male to female, and also different like emotions, like for example. And essentially, you pay for what you use, so it's very cost efficient. And basically, what this does is it enables you as a developer to easily add voice-enabled features into your applications, either through an API or an SDK. So yeah, you basically just handle the logic, and Azure will handle all of the AI for you.
So we will dive deeper into Speech Studio one-to-one and key services.
Yeah, let me just open up the Speech Studio. Okay. Oh, so yeah, this is
Yeah, so this is the Speech Studio. You can configure your speech features, and here we are going through specialized projects and scenarios.
And yeah, the Speech Studio also provides you a brief overview of every speech feature that you can think of. And we're actually going to be demoing a few of them. So right off the top, we have speech capabilities by scenario. The popular use case is like captioning. I'm sure we're all familiar to captioning. You can do real-time captioning and also offline captioning. Here's like a basic example of what captioning does. It basically allows you to uh, caption videos. And the cool thing about this try it out section is that you basically have the ability to just like take the code that you need right out of the box with different languages, with different sample code for different languages. And yeah, let's check out the other one, which is post-call transcriptions. Basically, really useful for call centers. How it works is that you basically just you provided an example of a recording of a call, and it can analyze sentences through sentence analysis. It can tell you if it's positive, neutral, or negative. It transcribes your voice phone calls, and it can also like filter out sensitive information. And this is also another cool feature. You can do call summaries. Next is speech to text. Speech to text is a very useful feature. It allows you to transcribe your text in real life. And here you can actually just try out how it works by using the speech to text software. You can either upload your own files and get the transcriptions from your audio directly, or you can also record some audio based on your microphone. I'm just gonna try and demo it. Hello there, testing 1 2 3. And as you can see, the transcription is done in real time. I guess other than that, you can customize your speech model by providing your own data. And another cool feature to look at is pronunciation assessment. You can basically just try to test your pronunciation. For example, today it was a beautiful day. And it would tell you how well you are at pronunciating things like mispronunciations, omissions, and like many more.
So, moving to text to speech, which is a technology that enables computers to convert written text into spoken words, we will see like the voice gallery scenario. We
Yep.
are having here the voice catalog with various languages from which we can like choose English, British, English, US, Arabic, French, and many more language. So let's choose English for the United States accent, and we have also the gender. For the gender, we have you can choose male or female as a filter, and the most like exciting thing is speaking style. Here we can find like angry, calm, excited, and many more. We can have also a default speaking style. It's like emotions or like something that shows the emotions of the speaker. So here we are going to choose one of the categories we have here to try it. So let's choose Jenny, for example. Yeah,
Yep.
let's try the default speaking style.
Many think that the people you list as references are already.
Yep.
Yes, so let's try some exciting things. For example, the excited,
I'm so excited to taste your cooking.
Wow.
yeah, moving forward to a sad one.
Oh, what is?
I'm actually going to be so sad if he doesn't get added.
So it actually really amazing the text, the speech to text. Actually, we have more than 400 voices and more than 100 language. We have also, you can view the documentation or view the simple code in the GitHub repo and have some documentation out there.
Yep.
Yeah. So we can have also the voice assistant, which create a unique keyword or short phrase to activate your product by voice. You can try them all or customize it within your projects.
Yep. Before we proceed, looks like we have a question in the chat, wondering how AI plays role in Azure Speech Service to recognize it through AI ML models.
Yeah, actually, if I may answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So you were asking about how Azure Speech Service use the AI and machine learning models. Actually, this service relies on the deep neural network models trained on large amounts of data to recognize and interpret the speech. But these models use technique called automatic speech recognition, so to convert speech to text.
Yep. So how do you? I guess like I also wanted to ask like what makes the Azure Speech Service so accurate for? I guess yeah, that's my question. Like, how is it so accurate in its performance?
So remember when we were talking about how companies had limited accuracy and required significant customization for different language or accents if they build their own speech models? This wouldn't be a problem because Azure Speech Service have been trained on a lot of data, and Microsoft has a lot of call histories for Microsoft tech support. So let's go and discover the training data.
Yep.
Excuse me. So on the training data used by Azure Speech Service, actually it's a combination of proprietary data from Microsoft own sources. And for example, the recorded speech data from variety of sources such as phone conversation or a collection of speech data from accumulated over years since it's a lot of data from products and services such as Skype or Cortana.
Yep.
Also, we have publicly available dataset. They can use well-known speech corpora or Wall Street Journal and Switchboard dataset, and more specialized dataset for specific use cases such as medical speech data or emotional data with emotions. We can't forget machine learning techniques and deep neural networks that enable the service to learn from the training data and improve the accuracy. And we can also say that they use data augmentation for that thing.
Yep.
So that's enough about slides. Let's do some coding. So as part of the demo, we will first go through the process to create a speech service on Azure.
Then we will implement speech to text and text to speech on a React Vite application. So in case you're wondering what Vite is just the modern way of creating React apps. Back then, we used to use Create React App, but in 2023, it's deprecated. So check out Vite. It's a lot more faster and provides a better developer experience. Next, we're gonna take a look at these things called ephemeral tokens for key management. Basically, just finding out what's the best practice for deploying. To store your keys in a production application. And right after that, we're gonna deploy it onto Azure Static Web Apps so that your app is live for everyone to see.
Yeah, one thing we would like to mention is that this demo can be quite technical, but we will be going step by step to explain it. Sounds like a lot to learn, but this is the real way to deploy something. Deploying projects are a great way to show off your work online. So we haven't found much advanced demos that show you deployments. So we thought we would build one together. So
Yes.
navigating to, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we have another question in the chat.
Yeah, go ahead, Kenji.
Yeah. So the question is, can I upload my own voice sample and create an assistant based on my voice? I guess I can take this answer. I can take this question then. Yeah, the answer is yes. There's this custom neural voice service that allows you to do this, and you can, I guess, feed it into your assistant. Is there anything to add? Anything that I'm missing out?
Yeah, actually, we are going to do that in the demo because we are going to create a web app using our own voices.
Yep.
So, going to create an Azure Speech Service using Microsoft Azure. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this is Microsoft Azure, and you need to log in using your subscription. You have a subscription. So here we find how to create a resource. We are going to navigate in the resources and tap speech. Loading the services, we can have here Speech Azure Service, which is an AI service that enables you to embed human-like speech capabilities into our apps. So we are going to create a speech service. So you will try here to choose one of your subscription if you have more than one. Then you need to select a resource group. For example, select an existing one or create a new one. So I will check for this. So if you want to create a new resource group, please click on here. Concerning the region, you can choose the region, but it's recommended to choose the closest region to you. The name, so I can type your unique name, for example, reactor. Yeah. Okay, already used. Let me try again. Yeah, perfect. So for the pricing tier, we have here standard as 0, and it provides us with more features and performance, more than like the free tier, and we have other pricing tier like enterprise and so on. So we will here review and create. Waiting for the running final validation, and yep, the validation is passed. We have our basics here, you can check them and then click on create if you have nothing to change. We have our deployment initializing. Then we have the stadio deployment is in progress. and it succeeded. So we can here click on go to resource to check for the essentials. We also can manage our key here and endpoint. We will have the API type and pricing tier, which it's important to verify because before implementing the service. So we have here our keys and our endpoint. Those keys will be used afterward for the deployment and the endpoint. We may need one of them or both of them. So this is how to create our Azure Speech Service. And Kenji, the floor of yours to deploy it.
Yep. Thanks. All right. Now that we have a speech service resource, let's take a look at how we can implement some speech features into our web app, particularly just speech to text and text to speech. But instead of diving straight into the code, I thought it would be useful to go through some slides first and some snippets of important code. Since the demo is a web app, let me just go back. Since the demo is a web app, I don't want to confuse everyone with just too much code at once. And so I will briefly just show some important snippets once first. Then the second time we will visit the code base and see how we add those snippets into our application. And yeah, I just thought like sharing from two perspectives to make it easier to digest. So the first thing I want to talk about is where do we even add our speech service code? And as I mentioned before, we are going to do this in a React application, so it would be in a front-end project. And I know this sounds a bit redundant, but I just really want to bring this up because I myself made a mistake a while back where I implemented speech service on a Blazor server application. It worked fine when it was running locally, but when I deployed it live, it was deployed into a virtual machine on the cloud, which does not have access to a microphone or a speaker. So that meant that I have to rewrite all of my application onto a Blazor Wasm application. So yeah, the TLDR of the story is just implement your speech services onto a front-end project, so you don't repeat my mistake. And to install the Speech SDK, the only thing we need to install is this package called Microsoft Cognitive Services Speech SDK. And so we just type this command and it should be done. Next, we're going to take a look at speech to text, particularly just on continuous recognition. Speech to text, remember we mentioned that there was a way to upload your files and get transcriptions from those and want to record from your microphone. And so this is the one that records from your microphone. And I guess the first thing we have to do is just to add a speech config. I think this is pretty standard for all of the speech SDK, features. So this allows us to connect to our resource that we just created. And this is where we actually put in our subscription key and the region that we got from the demo just now. Next, we just create an audio config, basically just telling it where the sound is coming from. So here I'm just putting it as my default microphone. And from here, we can create the speech recognizer. So the speech recognizer is actually an asynchronous object. So the way we interact with it is through subscribing to its events. So speech recognizer supports 4 different types of events. There's recognizing event, the recognized event, cancel event, and session stop event. And basically, what happens is when we put an event listener here, it basically runs the function that we want whenever that event is fired. So here it's basically just saying when it recognizes something from our speech, I want it to run this function called set transcript. And to start and stop the speech recognizer, it is also quite straightforward. Basically, you just have to call the start continuous recognition async function, and to stop it, you just call the stop continuous recognition async function. And on the other hand, this is the code for text to speech. You also start off with a speech config. And here I accidentally pasted my real keys, but this is a free account, so I'm going to delete it right after on. And the additional things that we pass onto the speech config here is the language, because we want it to generate a voice. We need to pass it the language and also which voice profile we want to provide. And here I'm just passing in Jenny. It is the one that we demoed just now earlier. And yeah, basically the next thing that we have to add is also an audio config to tell it where the sound is going to go out to. So I'm passing it my default speaker. and then we can create a speech synthesizer object. And the only function that we need to really care about is the speak text to sync function, which basically takes in what you want the voice to say, and also a callback function which tells it what to do with the audio data. So I guess this callback function seems a bit like weird, but what it's doing is basically the speech synthesizer under the hood would synthesize audio, but it is actually synthesizing an array of values to represent audio. So this callback function essentially stores the audio, the array of values representing the audio inside of this result object, and we can basically do some audio transformation on this buffer values before we return it back to the browser. And yeah, this is how we do text to speech. All right, so the next thing that I wanted to show about is how we can store our keys safely, because in the previous examples, I kind of showed you how we can create a speech config by speech subscription keys directly. It's fine to do this if you are, for example, making a pet project or something that, if you're using a free account. But what if you are using like a paid account and that might not be the best approach, because if you're using a paid account, you're kind of leaving your keys exposed if you put it in the front end. And that means that people are going to be able to see your speech key just by looking at the source code. And it means that if someone wanted to, they could take it for themselves and use your keys, and you have to pay for them. So that's kind of a bad situation to happen. So the solution is to use these things called ephemeral tokens, which is basically just a temporary authorization token. So it provides you a temporary key which expires after, I think, like 10 minutes. And if a user steals your keys, like the most you can use it for is 10 minutes. And the Cognitive API actually provides you a function to do this. So it's cognitive.microsoft.com/ses/v1.0/issue token, basically just to issue a temporary token. And all we have to do is to pass our speech key, the subscription key that we have in our resource, in the speech resource in the Azure Portal. And we basically want to handle all of this logic in a backend function, because in the backend it's safe for you to put your speech keys directly. But here we are still using an environment variable just to be safe. And basically, the workflow that we want to achieve is something like this. So the front end, whenever the front end application loads, it will not have the key directly. It will have to make a HTTP request to the backend to request like a temporary token. And this backend function here will basically do this. It will get your speech key and region from your environment variables, pass them into the headers, and send them to a request to the Cognitive API issue token endpoint to get a temporary token. And once it has that, it will pass it back to the front end, and the front end can basically enable all of the speech features from there. And I guess so one thing I want to point out is, if you want to create a backend easily, you can check out Azure Functions. They are basically just a very lightweight way of creating backend. And all you have to do is to define like your logic, and I guess Azure will handle all of the hosting for you. And here I'm just using a HTTP trigger, which basically runs this entire function whenever I hit a certain endpoint. And yeah, it makes developing a lot easier and also like a lot more faster. And I guess this is the rest of the code to set up the authentication flow. I basically have a use effect hook on the front end. So basically what this function does is it runs this code in between whenever your application loads. And what it does is I'm like calling an endpoint to get my speech keys, like the temporary token. This get speech config endpoint is basically just this whole block of code. But yeah, and basically it'll go through all of this and send me back a temporary token, which is stored inside the body. And I'm just saving the token and the region inside one of like my states, which I can then pass on to, I guess, my speech features. And the other thing that we need to change is just to change everything, all of our speech config, to use the from authorization token instead. Because because like back then we were using the from subscription function, which takes in a subscription key, but now we are kind of passing in an authorization token instead. So that's why we have to change the function as well. And the next thing I want to talk about is Azure Static Web Apps. So long story short, it's basically just a place to host our applications. It's kind of like Vercel or Netlify if you are familiar with those. And it is handled through a CI/CD pipeline. So it basically runs a new build every time you do a push or when you close your PR. I'll show all of this later in the demo, but I just wanted to just talk about it first so that it's easier to understand later on. And a good thing about the Azure Static Web Apps is that it is available for simple or complex front-end frameworks. So React, Vue, I think Angular, and recently the support Next.js. So you can also optionally add an API layer onto it. And I think it can be done through Azure Functions. And yeah, let's jump straight to the demo. Okay, so this might be very daunting. Let me just zoom in a little. Maybe a bit more. Okay, now we can all see the code clearly. So what I have here is a demo application of a speech to text and text to speech. And I feel like, okay, maybe it's better to just showcase what we're working at first. So let me just start the application. Is it here? Yep. Let me just check some things. All right. Okay. Basically, before this, I deployed a version of code that we want to try out today. So this is the end product that we want to aim to build. Basically, it's just a simple interface for speech services. There's a section for speech to text. And basically, you'll just, like the demo, you'll record my voice and transcript it. You can try it out. Speech service is awesome. And another component for text to speech, basically just having that AI generated voice say something for us. And we can also try it out.
Speech service is awesome.
And this is just something, I guess, a good template to start off with speech features. And now onto the code. What I have here is a React Vite application. You can see it's running vite.js. And let me zoom out a little because I can't see. Okay, so the way I set up this application is that all you need to do is to focus on like these few components, the speech to text and text to speech. Basically, I created two different applications. One is the basic setup using the subscription key, which might not be really safe, but the easiest way to get it into your first like AI pet project that you can show off to the world. And then a more proper setup if you want to do like more serious things that includes all of that logic for token management, temporary token management, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, the app.tsx file is our main entry point, and the way you want to change the applications is very simple. Just change what you want to export. So if I want a basic setup, I just like change to export app basic. And okay, let's take a look at this app basic then. So this component right here, speech to text basic, is basically okay. Let me refresh. Basically, this section, speech to text, like just this thing. And what I've basically done is, okay, it's a bit weird to change back and forth. I created like two different buttons, like to start and stop recording, like a clear transcript, and then like to actually display the transcript. And the only code I needed to add for like the speech part is like the first thing I needed to do is just to add my speech config. Like I mentioned before in the slides, everything we need to do with speech, we always start off with a speech config to connect it to the speech resource that we have created, then an audio config to tell like where the sound is coming from or going through. And here is the default microphone. And then we just create a speech recognizer. And previously, I also said it was an asynchronous item, asynchronous object, so we have to subscribe to some events. And I basically have a use effect hook which runs whenever the page is set up to call certain functions, and I'm subscribing it to the recognize event. I think this is the only thing we really need to focus on, because like the other events like recognizing or like session close or stop is, I guess we don't need them for like this demo. And basically I created an event listener to just say that whenever we recognize something from the recorded speech, I will call this function called set transcript, which basically updates what we have over here, over this thing. So whenever something is recognized, it will just add it to that block. And to start and stop the recording, I basically have just two button handlers, like start recording and stop recording. And basically all these like functions do is to change like which button is showing, and also like to start and stop the speech recognizer, which is also done just by using the start continuous recognition sync function and the stop continuous recognition sync function. And I guess the rest of the code is pretty like straightforward. So just like a function to clear the text. And yeah, this like code will be shared later on, so you can check it out yourself. But basically, just by like how many lines of code is it? It's like 1, 2, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, 10, 11. Okay, 10 lines of code. Let's just say 10 lines of code. We can essentially just build this, like, you know, speech service is awesome. With just 10 lines of code, we can add like speech recognition into our application. And yeah, that's actually quite insane. Like the amount of code we have to add nowadays to get these AI features. So I highly encourage everyone to check it out. And the next component is text to speech. And for text to speech, we also do like very similar. We just start off with a config file. A config, connecting it to the config. So here it's also like same, just to connect to the resource, and we pass in our language and the voice profile. And for here, I only needed one button. So I basically just have like a text area to get like input from the user, and then a button to like press like generate voice. So this is just one button handler, and all you need to do is to create an audio config to tell it where the sound is going to, and also just like create the speech synthesizer object. And as I mentioned before as well, the only function you really need to care about is the speak text async function, which takes in what the user wants to say. Basically, this is passing in the value of the input box of this thing. And then after that, just a callback function to say what you're gonna do with the sound. And I'm not gonna do any like sound transformations for now, so I'm just like leaving it as the default. And this is like, I think like 15 lines of code, and you can basically have speech to text as well. Sorry, text to speech as well.
Speech service is awesome.
Oh yeah, no like big ML models, no need for data or neither. You don't need any of that. It's just like a simple SDK, which like takes you like, I don't know, less than 20 lines to do it all total. And let's look at the more like advanced setup, which handles all of the keys and stuff. The temporary authorization key. So to do that, I just need like somewhere to store my keys. I just created some state to store like the speech key and region. And this is should store the authorization token. And when it starts, I basically call like this use effect hook to fetch my tokens, get speech configs. And that is actually I basically have an API layer to this application as well, written in Azure Functions. And I can just simply define like an easy function like here, which I showed you earlier as well. Just a HTTP trigger, which whenever it is called, it will take my keys and region from my environment variables, pass it to the headers, and call like the cognitive API to issue a temporary token. I get back my temporary token and the region, and I pass it back to here, which allows me to set my objects, allows me to set the options right over here. And now that we have somewhere to store our keys, actually we can also store them in our session storage or like local storage or cookies, but just for the sake of the demo, I just use a state to demonstrate. And okay, let's comment out this line. Basically, for the components, now the only thing that's different about them is that they take in some props as they're taking the token and the region for props. And the only thing that is changed now is that I've put the speech config into the function because like I want it to be able to access the props, and I changed it to use the from authorization token instead because now it's using an authorization token. And the rest of the code is pretty much the same. The same with the text to speech. I'm also like passing in props now and setting it inside of the function just to use the from authorization token as well. And just like that, we can actually try it out. I think let me just we need to get our Azure functions running first. So get speech config. Okay, let's just move forward because we're kind of running out of time. Let me just like go and show how to deploy this on a Azure Static Web Apps just really quickly. So, okay, let's go back to the Azure Portal. Once we're here, just search for Azure Static Web Apps. And then click on Create a new one. Choose your resource group. I'm just gonna pick a random one. Name your thing. It needs to be unique. Choose free if you want to do a pet project, and choose the region, like Europe West. And basically, this connects to your GitHub account. Basically, just connect to your account. Choose your repository and your branch. And from here, you can choose like the framework that you're deploying. I'm using React, so I choose React. And this part is basically just where your app is located on. And based on the code here, sorry, it needs to be based on the GitHub repo. So let me just go on to GitHub. So it's based on this, like, it's relative to the path of this directory. So our application is actually stored in the intro speech app. So we just need to change it to use like / intro speech app. And our API is intro speech app / API. And as for output location, it depends on the framework you're using. But for our case, we are using a dist folder. As you can see, like this is what is being built. And review plus create. And create. So for the sake of the demo, like we don't really have much time. The deployment should take around 2 minutes, and whenever you do that, something is going to be added into your repository. You basically have access to the workflows. I have 3 here because I deployed it twice before, and the only different thing that is added now is like this YAML file, which basically is the configs that was being passed. And other than that, I also forgot to mention that you have to set up your environment variables because like I've stored some keys in the environment variables. So yeah, basically just go back to the application we created just now and go to configurations. Just let it load for a moment. And just add your environment variables here. Okay, we're kind of running out of time, so let's just get back into the demo. Sorry, let's get back into the slides. All right, I'm sure that was a lot of information to absorb in just like 15 minutes or so. So let's do something less intense. Let's just look at some interesting use cases of speech services in our life. I know we already mentioned some personal assistants and so on, but like let's take a look at some other interesting use cases of the Azure Speech Service. And starting off with that, we can take a look at some business use cases. So live captions, what's new here? Back then, we only have live captions below, like just a text for everything, but now it can actually recognize who is actually saying that sentence. So this is called like speaker identification. Really cool. And other than that, is call centers like I've showed in the tried out section earlier just now.
Okay, so for the learning use case, we have the language learning, which is a speech service, can be used to help people learn a new language by providing pronunciation feedback and listening exercises. We have also the speech therapy, can be used by speech therapists to help people improve their speech and language skills. This can include exercises to strengthen muscles used in speech production, as well as exercises to improve articulation and fluency. More than that, Azure Speech Service may be used as pronunciation improvement to improve pronunciation and reduce accents. And this can be particularly useful for people who are learning a new language or who have a strong regional accent. Moving forward to the other speech use case.
Yes. So this is my favorite use case of speech service so far for the future, and it is for voice acting and for gaming as well. So this is recently like the advancement in training your own custom voices have been really cool, and you are able to train voices just on a few samples. But if you want a really accurate voice model, you have to still provide like a few more examples. But what you can do with it is more impressive in my opinion. So this is actually like just a project to make an NPC which answers in speech, like complete in speech, and also has its own like thinking features. So basically, this NPC can speak to you like I guess like a normal person would. Really cool. And the other interesting, funny use case that I find really interesting is the idea of using this voice, custom voices to create meme videos. Like I'm sure it's been a very like popular recently, like all the videos of people imitating different voices and making funny videos. It's kind of like we're not sure about the ethics here, but just something like funny to point out.
So, after hearing so much about speech services, where do we go from here, Kenji?
Oh, I'm sure like there was so much to talk about just now, and we can't like fit everything in an hour. So I highly suggest everyone to check out some material like outside of this presentation. So a good starting place would be Microsoft Learn itself. If you search for speech on the search bar, a lot of these modules will come out. I think there's like at least 10 of them. Like if you're interested in it, you can just go look at them. The documentation is also a really good place to start out. It covers everything you need to know. And yeah, regarding the demo just now, like I know like we kind of ran out of time, but basically you can find the code for, I guess for an React sample of a speech service. My demo was actually largely based on the first link, but I just thought it was quite outdated, so I created a new version like using Vite and a lot of like other fun like modern React tools. So here's the link to the repo as well. Just search for my username and intro to Azure Speech Service. And you can basically just use that as a starting template if you want to start building your own AI-powered applications. And yeah, other than that, I guess the next best thing to do is to learn more AI services. You can build really fun things if you just combine speech services with any other service or program. And in my opinion, speech is just like a way for us humans to interact with our machines and programs. So the program is honestly a more fun thing to work on. And just think about the infinite possibilities. Like you have ChatGPT. Like if you put speech to text and text to speech to ChatGPT, you technically have your own personal assistant. And just to point out, Jarvis is actually like just around the corner. Like I've seen a lot of activity in it, and I'm really excited for the future and what you're going to build with speech services. Oh, and yeah, that's kind of the end of our presentation. I hope you all enjoyed it.
So, thank you for attending us. If you have any question, please let us know.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kenji. Thanks, Hadil. I think you've answered all the questions which were there. Thanks very much for your time, and we shall see you again. And this video will be available to watch on demand on YouTube pretty much straight away. But yeah, thank you very much, and we'll have a lovely rest of the day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having us.